All right, so this is exciting. We've got Dr. Troy Van Biezen back on the show. Now, if anybody who didn't catch our last episode with Dr. Troy Van Biezen, quick refresher. Troy's been working with guys on the PGA Tour for over 20 years now. Also multi-sport, NFL, NHL, MLB, working with players really at the height of the game, and specifically even Scottie Scheffler. And we've seen since we last had Troy on the show, his incredible rise to world number one. So we're excited to dive into all that, and plus something new too, the GolfForever system.
That's right. We've been doing it.
Yeah. So we've got a lot to talk about. So we want to welcome Dr. Troy Van Biezen back to the show. It's great to have you here.
Hey guys, how you guys all doing?
Doing great.
Doing fantastic. So I want to jump right into this. It's kind of like picking up where we left off, where we last spoke. It was right before Scottie really started to everything just started to click. The wins started rolling in, the Masters, rise to world number one. So take us a little bit. Let's step back in time and talk about that for a second. First, as a foundation, when did you first start working with Scottie?
So Scotty and I first started working together when he was 14 years old. Wow. It's been really cool. This young kid came in. He was referred to me by Randy Smith, having some back issues. That's how our relationship started. And for me, it's kind of weird. It's surreal. It's kind of Groundhog Day. Scotty's doing what Scotty's doing now, what Jordan Spieth that did back in 15, 16, 17, and I was working with Jordan when he was 15. So it's been kind of neat. It's been like Groundhog Day. Both Dallas guys, both Texas guys, both number one, both Masters champions. So it's been really cool to see this.
Happen. And that brings up a good point. You wear a lot of hats. I mean, from the training to also from the medical piece. So is that how a lot of the relationships start from you, is like an injury prevention or injury rehabilitation?
Yeah, I would say probably 80% of that starts that way. I have a facility here in Dallas. It's everything under one roof for performance of all sports. And yeah, so Jordan and Scotty both came in at a young age, both with back issues, which is the common age for most high level, I guess, junior athletes and their golfers experience, start seeing back pain. They both kind of went through a growth spurt with the high volume of swinging the golf club.
Gotcha. So now obviously you've been working with them with Scottie for quite some time before he's had this huge leap forward in his progression on the PGA Tour. So taking us through that, when you worked with him, what were some of the biggest limitations or hurdles or issues that you had to overcome to help him unlock that performance that he's at, that we see now on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, good question. A lot of work. We've put a lot of work into this, and I have to give Randy Smith, his coach, credit. Randy's been great. A lot of communication between the two of us. I think for Scotty was just as he grew from a little guy to us, now he's 6'4", 215. He lost a lot of mobility in his hips, lost a lot of mobility in between his shoulder, his mid back. You have to understand the game of golf is a one-sided repetitive movement. So it's going to create asymmetries in the body. It's going to create imbalances in the body. And so we have to correct those. And we still do it. We still do it every day with him. He was just in this morning. I have to stay on top of it because the golf swing creates those imbalances, creates those asymmetries. And I think the best way to look at it with Scotty is let him go through his growth spurt. Obviously, a lot of people were concerned. We can't stop Mother Nature. So we let that happen. When he's finally stopped growing, there's a lot of communication between me and John Fields in Texas, making sure Scotty gets a lot of the individualized treatment and training more so for him. And John was great doing that. And then once he was turning pro, then I got my hands on him and was more of a full time. And so, like you guys mentioned, I do it all. I do the rehab, I do the therapies, I do the nutrition side of it, I do the training side of it, all the recovery. So I do wear a lot of hats out there on tour.
Yeah, and every player being so different, I imagine there's a lot of similarities in what you do, but there's also a lot of differences. And Scotty, the first thing I got to think of is his unique footwork. Yep. I mean, from a balance standpoint, for anything like that, does that present any unique challenges for you?
So next step, obviously, with Scotty, after we kind of cleaned up his body, was understanding some of the things Randy Smith wanted to clean up in his golf swing. And so the right foot moving forward was Randy was really good. He understood that that was Scotty's natural golf swing. That was innately his part of his swing. He didn't want to make a change, which I think a lot of golf coaches would have done that. And so, what Randy wanted to do was have that right foot on the ground as long as possible. So back in college, that right foot was actually traveling forward on the downswing. And so, what we've done over the last, 4 years now is doing a lot of what I would say I kind of like reverse engineer the golf swing, and I take what the coaches want, bring it into the gym and put them in simulated controlled movements to what I would call upload the nervous system or retrain the nervous system or the movement pattern so they can take that movement onto the golf course. And so now we're at a point where you can see that Scotty's right foot does not move forward until post impact.
Hmm.
So we're at a point now where it doesn't matter. The ball's in the air. So we're good with where he's at now with the right foot. Back in the day, I think when he first came out, probably college, the tee ball was not his strongest part of his game off the tee. And now on the PGA Tour, he's number one in the PGA Tour tee to green. So, uh, yeah, it's just been a lot of work, but he's been committed. He's been great. He works his butt off. I push him hard. And obviously things, have been panning out for us.
Troy, how often do you see the guys, especially Scotty, during the season like this, especially going into busy season after the players? Do you see them weekly? Do you see them as much? Or they just rely on themselves to get this stuff done, or how does that work?
No, pretty much full time. So I travel with I put in 28 weeks on the road with my guys last year.
Wow.
And so I'm with them every week, almost every tournament. I see them twice a day. So I'll see them before the round and after the round. And then at home, like today's an off week for us. Scotty's been in to see me now. This is day three, and we'll finish one more up tomorrow. Tomorrow will be what I would call more of a movement-based session with him, just getting moving properly, recover. We had a pretty heavy volume of lifting today, and then he'll fly out Sunday morning, and then I'll fly out Sunday night, and we'll get ready for the Masters.
Yeah,
Pretty
which is
sweet.
coming up right around
Mhm.
the corner here. So obviously, like, okay, Scotty as an example, or really any of the players you work with, wins speak volumes. They speak for themselves. Or world number one. All these things speak for themselves. But for you generally, when you work with a player, how do you define success in what you're doing? Do you have some sort of metric
Yeah.
that says, "Hey, what we're doing, this is successful. Whether it translates to a PGA Tour win or not, this is a success for us."
Yeah, good question. I measure success in a lot of different ways. Obviously, I think the win's probably the biggest success. As you guys know, it is so hard to win on the PGA Tour. The talent out there is incredible. So many great golfers from around the world. But I take it in little pieces. So what I do a lot of testing with my players. So we'll test them like I've been testing Scotty since high school. We'll test their range of motion. We'll test their speed, their strength. We'll do a lot of functional testing, like what we do at FMS screen. We score them. And then based on those numbers, I actually compare them to where they are in their age group or to their colleagues they're playing against. So whether it's a college player, whether it's a high school player, whether it's now you're on the pros, this is your strength, this is your speed, this is where you are, and this is the average of the PJ Tour player. And so we're always trying to be the best at that in the gym. Now, the gym obviously doesn't always equate to wins, as you guys know. So, but I measure, and so I'll give you a good example. So 2021, I think Scotty had, 13 top tens or something like that, and four runner-ups, and just wasn't able to close the deal. And I think part of it was feeling comfortable back nine going down the stretch. That's you got to feel comfortable doing that with the cameras on you and everything. But we did a cardiovascular test on him at the end of that season, and we found that he just wasn't at the level he needed to be to close. To the way I look at it is that, and I worked with Tiger for quite a few years, and so you want to be as fresh on Thursday morning as you do on Sunday afternoon, going down the back nine. And so we just found that there was a fatigue issue with Scotty on Sunday afternoon going down the back nine. So off season, I pushed him hard, like really hard. I come from a hockey background. I used to be a professional hockey player. So my background is big on strong legs, strong trunk, strong glutes, a lot of power, a lot of speed coming from the lower body into the upper body. So we did a lot of work with him. But after that, we would do a lot of hit workouts,
Hmm.
or what they call burners. So after a high volume of training, basically you would do a lot of 30-second on assault bike, 30-second on ball smashes, 30-second on skier. And my goal was to really fatigue the nervous system at that point when it's already fatigued. So when he gets put into that position on the PGA Tour, especially the big majors. I mean, they're physically, mentally, and emotionally draining. I mean, they're long weeks, early mornings, late nights, 5 hours on the round, expectations, cameras, fans. It's hard.
Yeah.
And I think we put a plan together, and I just told Scotty to stick with it, and he did. And then last year was an incredible year. So I guess I would measure what we did in the gym and what I guess the weaknesses and the what we found in the gym. We basically got rid of those, and we all saw what he did last year, and obviously carried last year into this year.
Yeah. And now an example like that, Scotty, is that when you look across the PGA Tour, is that an outlier, or do you see that even the guys you're not working with has that commitment to fitness and training kind of made its way throughout the tour? I mean, we even saw you make a brief appearance on the Netflix Full Swing doc, and you were working with, and we got to see a little bit of that behind the scenes. But us as fans, we see them play their round, but we don't see what happens after, before and after. So is that more commonplace, or is that unique on the tour now?
It is becoming more commonplace. So me being out there for 21 years, there was nothing before after rounds, no recovery, no warm ups, no nothing. There's a beer and a smoke after the round, hang out. Now you got guys doing recovery, cryotherapy, um, soft tissue recovery, stretching, post workouts, what we call flush bikes. We ride a bike for 30 minutes to flush out the lactic acid, Normatec boots, infrared. It's crazy what has evolved the last 10 years on the PGA Tour. And so we do a lot. So one of the big things with all my players is that, to your point, I sit back and say, okay, who is dominating the PGA Tour and how are they doing it? You look at Tiger Woods and you look at a Bryson DeChambeau, a Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, and Rory McIlroy. They're overpowering guys on the golf course. And so that's our goal now with Scotty is we've cleaned him up. He's moving efficiently. He's got the endurance. He's got the strength. And now we're just working on a lot of speed. And he gained 7 yards from last year just over in the off season. So to your point, the way I also look at it when I look at physics is how do you generate rotational speed? How do you generate stored energy? And the biggest thing I look at is I read a lot. And so I read TB12's book, or whatever it was, 7, 8 years ago. He talked a lot about muscle pliability and how you can stretch a muscle. You can create that elastic energy. And once you create that elastic energy, you can go. And so that creates speed, that creates a lot of power. And so what you saw on Netflix was a lot of soft tissue work that creates the muscle pliability, creates the inertial, like a stored energy, creates that what I call like a slingshot. But what people also understand is the more pliable your muscle is, the more it can absorb forces. And so when you start seeing guys like the Bryson, the Brooks, the Tigers, Rory's really good at what he does behind the scenes because I see Rory almost every day out there. Is I think they just didn't have the recovery part down. And my goal, obviously, with Scotty is injury prevention first, number one, making sure he stays healthy, making sure that there's no injuries and or pain. Knock on wood, we've been very successful with that. So I look at a bunch of different things. And so at this point right now, if you see Scotty's win in Phoenix, he was playing against a player and he was 50 yards past him. Okay. That creates a lot of alpha male intimidation out there. If you're playing against a guy going in the back nine, he's 50 yards ahead of you, that's
Right.
plays a mental game on you. So that's where I look at it right now, and I look at it like I guess he doesn't like me saying this, but I guess like a Dustin Johnson. He's very athletic. He plays multiple sports, which I love. That specialization of sports is not in wasn't when he was a kid. He played baseball, played basketball, and so I guess that's what I would look at it is how much more can I push him? What's the ceiling for Scotty? If you would ask that question 2 or 3 years ago, the ceiling would be very high. I think we're getting pretty close. If I can get an extra, methodically an extra 5 yards out of him and still be number one tee to green, that's insane. Like you look at guys who are the biggest hitters on tour, their accuracy is like 50 to 55%. Scotty right now is hitting at 67%.
Jeez.
That's a big deal for a big hitter.
That's why we see him every Sunday,
And short game and putting's good too, right? So
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is I look at it as if you're physically tired, and you see guys like this all the time. You see guys 5 under on Friday or Thursday, and all of a sudden Saturday, Sunday they're non-existent, or they just and I think it's a fatigue issue. So to your guys' point, yes, there are a percentage of players that train hard, recover hard, do what they need to do, be a professional athlete. And I carry that when I see when I work with the NFL guys, the National Hockey League guys. What do they do behind the scenes? How do they do it? I learn a lot from those guys. I bring that to the golf course, and a lot of things I start on the tour, other people follow. It's interesting, like the way I do my warm ups, the way I do a lot of things. Um, People have copy it because obviously it's successful. And
Right.
I think, and another thing too, I think anytime I'll put the hockey one into this one. Anytime you get a new coach, right, the players have to buy into the system. And how do you
Yeah.
buy into the system? You have to become successful. And so, thankfully for me, and I've worked with four number one players in the world. Worked with four Masters champions. So whether it's right or wrong how I do it, I think we've been pretty successful.
Success speaks for itself. That's for sure. All right, guys, we're going to get you right back to our interview with Troy Van Biezen, but we want to take a second to thank this week's sponsor. And first up, Titleist. Guys, to be your best, you have to outperform the player you were yesterday. I mean, we're exactly what we're talking about here with Troy. It's just bettering yourself. And for some of you, it might be breaking 80. For others, it might be breaking the course record. But for all of us, it's playing a golf ball we know will help us get the most out of our game. And the new Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X are the most advanced to date and will help reward your best swings like never before. Both models are longer, they're even more consistent, and they featured unrivaled control. The Pro V1, it's the best combination of distance, spin, and feel in the game. It delivers that penetrating flight. It's the ball that I play. For Mike, it's the Pro V1X. It flies higher, spins more, and in the short game, and it still gives you that low spin on the longer shots we want. Off the tee, we want that low spin with driver to maximize our distance. So find out more about the new Pro V1 and the Pro V1X, including the best choice for your game at Titleist.com.
The all-new Hyperflex and Hyperflex Carbon shoes from FootJoy deliver hyper power, hyper control, and hyper fit for elite tour caliber performance. These are seriously powerful but comfortable shoes. These are gamer shoes for players focused on maxing out their performance. They provide the foundation for hyper power, designed to provide you the best swing platform possible. They keep you in place for hyper control because all FootJoy thinks about is how to design a shoe that helps you play better. They keep you dialed in with HyperFit because a shoe that doesn't fit reduces your power input. And guys, that's a fact.
We're talking about how to create all this power, right?
Right.
And then what are you going to do? Let it slide?
Don't let it slide. So go check out the new Hyperflex and Hyperflex Carbon today at footjoy.com. You guys are going to love them. You're going to love the color patterns on these things. Go check them out for yourself.
And lastly, we also want to thank this week's sponsor, Tommy John, but stay tuned for this one because we've got the best deal out there right now for underwear. You guys know I've been talking about for a long time. I've been a Tommy John guy for a long time.
That's right.
So when a deal like this comes up, I stock up. And the Tommy John 360 collection is by far my favorite fit. They call it 360 because of the 360 stretch fabric. It prevents from riding up, no wedgies. These were Golf Digest called them the best underwear for golfers. And because you want it to stay put when you're out there playing, walking 18 holes, they are comfortable. It's also comfortable for everyday wear. They've got mesh cooling zones, a contour pouch. It guarantees it's only your goals getting crushed out there, if you know what I mean. They're also antimicrobial, anti-odor technology. These really have everything. The stay put waistband, it won't roll, it doesn't bunch, it doesn't pinch. Effectively, it's underwear that does what it's supposed to do. And that's not get in your way. They also come in 4, 6, and 8-inch boxer brief inseams and sizing up to 4XL. But here's the deal. It's the best deal out there. Use code Golficity. You're going to get 25% off your entire order. And I know a lot of you guys, if you're like me, you're already a Tommy John guy. You're going to use that to stock up now. If you're not, use that discount to try them for the first time. Just a word of warning. Once you go that way, there's no going back.
Yep.
Because it feels different than anything I've ever worn before. So go to TommyJohn.com, use that code Golficity, get 25% off. All right, let's get back to our interview with Dr. Troy Van Biezen. That just leads me to another question, and you talked a little bit about recovery and things like that. I think that like we saw with golf and you said before, like how it was like very low seemingly on the fitness side. And then
Mhm.
some people, it could have been a knee jerk reaction. Some people were trying to make the argument years ago. I remember with Tiger, did the pendulum swing too far? Are these guys doing too much? And that's causing them to injure themselves and shorten their careers. I even saw like a little bit with Bryson. Guys are talking about he's pushing his body too far. How do you
Yep.
address something like that? How do you know how to keep pushing and keep making it, where they're able to excel and knock out the weaknesses without going too far?
Yeah, and I will agree with you. I think in some certain situations it has gone too far. Like it goes from nothing when I first started to now you see a lot of guys getting into the powerlifting, a lot of the Olympic lifts. What the problem with that is a lot of the players don't understand or their trainers that you have to build a stable, mobile foundation to build from to get into the power and speed and strength. And it's not the sexy part. It's redundant. We do it every day with Scotty. It's just part of his program. He understands. So once you have a really stable, mobile foundation to build from, and you stay with that and you maintain that, you can get into the power and speed and not have the body break down. And so, um, I think with a Bryson, because I see these guys, I used to see him every week. So number one is recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Bryson did push himself. I think with generating the amount of speed he wanted to create and the amount of weight he wanted to put on in such a short period of time, it is very detrimental to the body, and eventually the body breaks down. And we all saw that. We had a wrist issue, a hip issue, and so he broke down. So, and it's funny, Bryson, we've talked a lot over the years, and he'd ask my advice. And I tell him, like, listen, you're going too fast. Yeah. You have to understand the amount of stress, number one, on the spine. So every time you hit a driver, there's 8 times of compressive shearing forces on the lumbar spine. So can your body absorb those forces? Number two is the amount of hand speed these guys have, and everybody wants to create hand speed. The small joints, the elbows and the wrist take a tremendous amount of stress.
Mm.
And you do it in your training, you do it in the range, you do it in your game. Eventually, they're going to start breaking down. I've learned over the years I can generate more speed for a player without training speed. I can help them get faster by first of all understanding a sequence of the golf swing in the gym in a controlled environment. And number two, how can I get them to brake or decelerate? If I can get certain body parts to decelerate, then they actually be able to accelerate in the golf swing. So we do a lot of, I would say, eccentric loading in the gym, and that's so it's more like let's say if you're a right-handed golfer, left hip, I would do a lot of eccentric loading of the left hip, teaching that person how to decelerate to be able to create more speeds as they kind of release the club at impact.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I want
Yeah.
to, because some of the stuff that you're saying is starting to ring true with mine and Mike's own
Mhm.
experience with GolfForever. So I want to kind of
Yeah.
like pivot and talk about that for a moment because we've been talking about obviously golf at the highest level, but then there's for the 200 or so guys on tour, there's 2 million guys playing golf, every weekend. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of them could benefit from the fitness too. So one thing that really rang true for me, you talked about Scotty with even with the endurance and towards the end of the round. Although we're not playing for the big check on Sunday, we do put together a golf trip, with the buddies, and it's 5 rounds over 3 days or something like that. And it's something where it's grueling, but you want to play well, you want to enjoy it,
Sure.
right? So that was kind of our motivation for trying and
And
diving into golf
and
forever.
not only that, I had the joke with him. I call him Frankie Hips because on 15th hole, the hips aren't firing anymore, and we see the scorecard blows up for both
Yeah.
of us on the 15th,
There you
16th,
go.
17th, 18th. We cannot close either
And
as we get older and our bodies get more tight.
none of
So
us want to be just the nine
Yeah.
hole guy,
we don't. We got to go the
So
distance, Troy.
tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about Golf Forever, your involvement,
Yeah.
and what that's doing, for the sport.
Yeah. So I've been with these guys a little over 2 years now. First of all, it's been awesome. The team behind the Golf Forever, they're amazing people. They care about the game. They want to grow the game. The program we put together, the content's been insane. The feedback we get from around the world has been amazing. And I look at it, you're just helping people. Like I'll give you a couple. I'll give you one story. A gentleman texted us and he said he's got a special needs. child, he has been able to pick it up in over 2, 3 years. And he actually did the GolfForever program, and now he's able to pick up his child and be able to spend time with his child because he's now gotten more flexible, a little stronger, and able to hold his child. So that's the cool stuff we see all the
Mhm.
time.
That's incredible.
That's just life. That's not even golf. So we get a lot of those stories. I think on the golf side of it, like you guys said, you want to play. You're competitors. You want to beat your buddies.
Right.
It's easy. It's versatile. You can take it with you to a hotel room. You can do it on the golf cart. You can do it on the range. Um, and I would say, I would say the biggest thing I've seen here in the clinic in Dallas, or with people I get feedback from Golf Forever is. Um, A lot of guys go to the gym and work out, which is great. But what they do as we get older, we lose the flexibility, we lose the mobility, and we can't turn. Like the game requires flexibility, it requires you to turn. So I think with the swing trainer that came out that we launched this year, it helps you be able to turn, helps you simulate the golf swing, and stabilize the hips, stabilize the core. I mean, it's a really hard workout with the swing trainer. So it's been really cool. I mean, as you guys know, I don't know if you guys know this, we have over 15,000 online members, monthly subscribers.
Wow.
Wow, that's great.
How about
That
that?
is
And then we're
That's
over
awesome.
four,
incredible.
four. So it's really great. It's helped a lot of people, and it just continues to grow. And now we're in 42 college golf teams around the country and over 400 big box stores. So it's been fun. It's really been cool to see how this has helped a lot of people. And you guys know this. So, and there's a lot of things we get. My back pain's gone. I can turn better. I hit it 10 yards further. Who doesn't want to hit it 10 yards further at the tee with their buddies, right?
Yeah, no
Exactly.
doubt.
And I think so much of it is that uh, it's the awakening when you start to do a program, you realize how limited you were before. Because now feeling it, and after doing it for 30 days, and feeling how far I can kind of turn without hitting that point where I knew before that either I would feel stiffness or sometimes a little bit of pain, even. I'm
Yep.
getting
Yep.
past that point. And it's like, almost wasn't I wasn't aware of it until I felt what good felt like, because I think
Sure.
this
Yeah.
stuff builds up over time. I'm 42 years old now. Like I spent a lot of years working at a desk. So you don't all of a sudden feel 20, then all of a sudden feel 40.
Yep.
It's a slow progression where I didn't realize how much flexibility I was losing and how much stiffness my body was gaining from work life, 8 hours behind a desk.
Yeah.
And then when I
Yeah.
started to do this program and I started to realize it, but then all of a sudden, 10, 15 days in, I'm moving a little bit better. And I'm like, whoa, now I realize what I was missing. I'm sure I've got a long way to go, but that was
Yeah.
what rang true for me.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I said before. If you're successful at what you're doing, you're going to buy into that system, and I think that's what Golf Forever has done for people who've joined us. And whether you're a pro, weekend warrior, college golf team, whoever, um, yeah, I think it's been cool. What I see is people work their butts off in their entire career. Sitting at a desk, sitting on a plane, sitting in a car, 30, 40 years, and they want to play the game they love to play when they retire, and their body won't let them. And that's very it's very disheartening for a lot of people. They can't even play 9 holes. And so I think for me and Dr. Jeremy James, who founded the company, we're both following parallel paths of trying to get people out of pain and helping people play golf better. And Jeremy developed this amazing platform to reach more people. And here we are, 15,000 monthly subscribers in big box and college golf. And we both say, wow. And there's a need for it. There's a niche for it. People wanting that help. And so we're able to build a platform to help a lot of people around the country. So yeah, I think I said if it works and the pain goes away, you're hitting it further, you're able to play 12 holes instead of 8 holes or finish 18 holes with no pain. Um, you're going to keep doing it. Yeah, it's been really neat to see this thing grow and help people.
And how closely does the program itself and some of the exercises that the program takes us through, how closely does that resemble what you're doing with your actual tour players?
Yeah, good question. I get that question a lot. So what I would say to that question is a lot of the mobility, stability, activation exercises that you guys have you see in the app is what we do with our tour players. Whether it's my warm up, I don't know if you guys have gotten to this point yet, but I did a series of how certain swing faults are caused by certain body faults. So if you hang back or you lose posture or you cast or you whatever that swing fault is, I actually take you through a exercise program to better the body so you can get rid of those swing faults. Because I would say for the most part, 70% of the swing faults people have is because of the body, not really a technique issue. And that's been a struggle for me all these years, is trying to let people know, listen, it's actually your body that's not allowing you to the left side. It's actually the body that's allowing you to hang back, block right, coming out of posture. Those are body issues. Those aren't technique issues. So my next, I guess, phase in GolfForever is I'm putting together a training program for golf coaches to understand the body better, so they can coach you guys better.
That's so incredible to hear, because for me, my own personal experience with driver, for me, for whatever reason, I felt like, and this may relate in some way, but I felt like I was just limited at clubhead speed of 100 miles an hour. I tried all different things, and I'm trying different ways that I could, like, from a technique standpoint, right? So I
Sure.
did
Yeah,
this whole, and I did my 30 days, and now all of a sudden I'm picking up 103, 105, numbers I've never seen before. So I'm
it's
finding that
amazing.
I'm able to get deeper into my backswing. Like I said before, there was a governor, it felt like, where I would just get to a
Sure.
point where their stiffness would kick in. So that's cool, because like, as golfers, we are so quick to blame ourselves. It must be something I'm doing wrong, and we'll look at every swing tip under the sun. But I think it's enlightening to hear that, as you said, 70%, it could just be that the body just is not capable of doing it yet.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Troy,
it's a big. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, not just you guys, but I just had a consult with a pretty high level PGA Tour player. He couldn't load into his right side, and him and his coach have been banging away for 2 straight years. And I looked at him. I did a quick assessment. I said, "You can't get to your right side because your body's not allowing you to do so." And he's like, "What do you mean? This is a PGA Tour player."
Yeah.
And I gave him literally. He hasn't been able to shoot very well since the beginning of the year. Because what would happen, he would have shortness into his backswing, couldn't set the club, and then what happens is if you don't get to your right side, you're not going to get to your left side. That's just the way it is. So
Right.
he hangs back and blocks right? So he shot 4 under yesterday in San Antonio. He texts me. He goes, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Sometimes it's just that simple.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Validation right there. That's pretty cool. I was going to ask you, with you, as of us recording this, you're going to be flying out to Augusta for the best week of the year on tour. I just want to know, what do you do with these guys during that week? Do you go soft on them? Like, are they don't push it this week? Don't risk getting hurt? Do you change anything? And also, do you do things differently for morning tee times versus afternoon tee times? I'm always curious. Do guys wake up earlier? Do they go all out before they go off at an 8 o'clock and things like that? It's always been on my mind watching these guys.
Yeah, good question. I think my mentality is we do all the work in the off weeks, as we do as much as we can. Going to a major, I really don't push the guys hard. We'll do some simple, what I call movement sessions, just making sure they're moving efficiently. Everything's good with them. I think for next week, it's probably the most stressful week as a golfer. More recovery based, getting their sleep, getting their hydration, getting their nutrition. To your question about tee times, Jordan's about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Scottie's 2 hours. Zach Johnson's 2 hours. If it's an early morning, like obviously it's not a full field next week, so the tee times aren't that early. But sometimes I'm waking up at 4:15 in the morning to get to the golf course by 5 to warm some guys up. So they're long days.
Yep.
So I think at this point next week is balls to the wall. Everybody's going to go hard. Everybody's going to do what they need to do. It's to me, it's one of obviously my favorite weeks. I've been very successful out there. We've had 4 master champions. I look forward to every year like everybody else does. So I think I have a good roadmap on make sure the guys play well and play to their best. And fingers crossed, hopefully one of my guys gets that green jacket next week.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
Wouldn't mind seeing a repeat.
Yep.
I'll tell you that much.
That would be success, right? That's how you measure success. Is win that one.
There you go. There you
That's
go.
for sure. All right. So before we let you go,
Yeah.
one last question I want to ask you is you've obviously now had a great career, 20 years with the PGA Tour, witnessing the changes we talked about, how it's evolved. What does the future look like? Where do you think that fitness, training, all this is headed? Is it something that's just linear and it's just going to keep going? We've even seen these arguments of rolling the ball back because guys are getting so fit. Where do you see it headed?
Yeah, good question. I think as you see it, every generation that comes out as a better athlete. We'll continue to see that. I think with technology, with iPhones, with all the technology, the learning curve for these young kids is a lot shorter. So they're going to come out younger and they're going to come out as better athletes. Um, Regarding the ball, it's kind of funny. We had this discussion with the Titleist guys in Tampa, and the ball is the ball. They can't really do much else with the ball. So really, the distance that's going to increase is probably going to be based on the athletes that the golfer that's going to come out over the next 2, 3 generations. I think distance wise, I think it's going to plateau over for quite a while. Like the big jump we've seen the last 5, 6 years, we're learning
Mhm.
how to swing faster, how to build a better athlete, technique wise, what works. But I think that'll plateau to a certain point. I think like baseball, right? You get to a certain point where the baseball pitchers were throwing hard,
Yeah.
and now that's kind of plateaued. So I love that these guys are like when I started 15, 20 years ago, these guys weren't athletes. We all know that. It was smoking a cigarette on the golf course, 40 pounds overweight. I love this now. I love the Scotties. I love the DJs. I love the Brooks. I love the Brysons. I start talking to these guys are like they're like NASCAR and nitric oxide. Like the power, like Rory McIlroy when his driver's on is awesome. I mean, this is
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, and I would say, I'd argue with some guys because they want the ball roll back. You have a whole new generation of fans because they want to see Rory hit at 320. They want that power. They want that speed. It's a whole new generation that loves it. All of a sudden, you take the ball and roll it back, and now Rory's hitting it 285. You're going to kill it. You're going to
Yeah.
kill that fan base. I really think so. And we all know you can play golf courses that aren't long. Like they talk about, you got to go 8,000 yards. You're not have to go 8,000 yards. There's no chance. Just design the golf course better. Hilton Head, Colonial, Riviera. I mean, there's 6 courses out there that not long and they're hard.
Yeah. Sawgrass even. Look at how Sawgrass is
Yeah,
not a
for
terribly
sure.
long course,
Sawgrass.
tough course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
now all interesting stuff. Well, listen, thank you again for taking time to come on the show. Wish you, all the best of luck with your journey with the GolfForever program, with all of the guys you're working with. I'm sure we'll see a lot more wins coming soon. So best of luck with everything there. And thanks for taking the time to talk about this. I know we've learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners have as well. So it was great having you on the show.
Awesome, guys. I love talking shop with you. Let's do it again.
You got it. We'll
Sounds
talk
good,
soon.
Troy.
Thank you.